Hi, it's Ed O'Keefe, and welcome to the Ed O'Keefe Show. I'm super excited to bring a very special guest, Mr. Laurens Bensdorp. Laurens is the two-time author of The 30-Minute Stock Trader, a stress-free trading strategy for financial freedom, which is great because it gives you a systematic approach for investing in bear markets, bull markets, and sideways markets, which I got to tell you, Laurens, what I was so great about having you on today is that is exactly what people need today. The second thing I was super excited about was I've worked with doctors in the past and high-paid professionals on growing their businesses, and it seems that there's a very direct correlation to many of your students are doctors or high-paid professionals that come to you.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's so great having you here. So thanks for joining me in Florida to make this work.
It's my pleasure.
Why don't you take us back a little bit about how you started on this journey of creating a 30-minute stock trader system?
Of course, yeah. It's quite a long time ago already. I started my trading career in 2000. So we're going 23 years back. And at that time, my father had his own venture capital boutique investment firm, which was in big trouble. And a big part of that was actually the stock trading part, so the stock investments that he had. And the issue was he had bad advisors, bad accountants, and he needed somebody to help him because he couldn't handle the stress of the financial trouble that he was in at that time. So he asked me to come over and help him, and I said, of course, I'll do that, no problem at all. And when I saw the mess that he was in, I said, okay, I'm going to need to fix this. But it was split up in two parts, private equity, and the other part was the stock trading part. That was the part that immediately grabbed the most attention to me. And what I saw at that time is, and we're talking here April 2000. So this is the time when the big boom market just stopped and all the markets were going down. So the portfolio was looking at losses of 30% or something like that. And it was a time where I said, like, okay, this can't continue like this.
Yeah.
And this was all advised by private bankers, banks in huge, big, expensive buildings and everything that were supposed to know a lot about investing. But the only thing that I saw, that the account was down more than 30%.
Yeah.
So that's when I saw, like, okay, this is something that I would like to help with, and it is something that incredibly appealed to me as well.
Well, that's what I want to ask you before we, so did you have a lot of experience in stock trading at this time?
Not at all.
So you really just identified, okay, my dad's in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a big problem, and the advice he's getting is not necessarily which goes to something we're talking a little bit later about, like what the big problem in giving your money to just big institutions are. So what was your kind of first step, or how did you approach this problem?
So the first thing I did was I saw that there were big losses in the portfolio, and I made a simple calculation and I said, okay, this is what we have right now, and we need to liquidate everything right now and be in cash.
Really?
Because nobody could convince me that there actually was, at that time, a strategy that could justify why we were having all those stocks in the portfolio that were going down.
Right.
So I needed to convince my family, listen, take your losses, but at least then you know what you have. And then you could build again and actually find something that could have an edge.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's super hard to even take, though, because you hear the old adage of never sell when it's already down, hold on to your money, it'll eventually come back.
And let me jump in with
please. Yeah, this is when I hear you.
That is many times for many people that is true.
Yeah.
When they think like, okay, if I just hold on, eventually it will go back to break even. Now let's go back a little bit further in history, and that's what I did at that time. I looked at what happened over the last century,
Yeah.
And if we go to the 1929 crisis, for example, the Dow Jones at that year crashed, of course, but in the subsequent 2 or 3 years after that, the total drop of the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 index was close to 90%.
Wow.
Now, if you've got $1 million invested and you're suddenly down to $100,000,
Wow.
would you still have the confidence that it goes back to $1 million?
Yeah.
It eventually did after 26
years. Yeah. So then, okay. So this is the big problem, obviously.
Yeah.
So then, how did you, not knowing about stock trading or investing at the time, just give us a little more backstory of like how you became an expert in this.
Studying a lot.
Yeah.
I read about probably 500 books or so. And it was a long road because there wasn't any available education that really could teach you how to make money in the markets.
Okay.
It didn't really exist. So I needed to find my own way, and I read a lot of books, and eventually what I found is that I need a systematic approach where I can have quantified results that actually show how a certain strategy with specific buy and sell rules would have done in the past, so that I would actually know if what I buy and when I sell, that it actually has an edge. Because most people predict and say, this is what I'm going to buy because it looks good, but they have no idea if that specific strategy has an edge. So I moved to that systematic art where we use historical price action to define when to buy and when to sell.
Okay.
If that makes...
Well, yeah. See, I mean, I think that what's interesting is your whole framework was from the get-go, like, we need a system. It's got to be non-emotional. It's got to work in every type of market.
Correct.
Okay. So that's great. So I would say, like, could you mind keep going down that trail of why, like, now? Because I would imagine that one of my big hesitations of doing anything in the stock market right now is that things are so hard to predict. You have the banks failing, but then being bailed out. It's, the government's unpredictable on what they're going to bail out or protect.
Yep.
Interest rates are high, but you're hearing that they might come flying down, So me doing anything new would be a little scary. I'd rather just hold on to my cash, or if I've lost money, just freeze and just kind of hope and pray.
Correct.
Which I know is some people will call it the sound advice. Others will call it a non-educated advice. So, so how do you respond to that, I guess, first of all? And why is now a great opportunity for somebody who wants to take control to start investigating your system or possibly utilizing your system?
Got it. So the first thing is you can't predict anything because you don't know what the government will do.
Yeah.
But besides that, you don't know what the government will do, but you don't know either how the markets will react according to that decision.
Yeah.
What you do know is that there will be times when the market goes up and times where the market goes down. So if you have a systematic approach where you have strategies that are built to make money when the market goes up, and then this is where the key is, where you also then have a strategy that makes money when the market goes down, and you trade those simultaneously at the same time, then you basically don't care that much what the market does. So, examples.
Yeah, give me the example, yeah.
The 1929 depression, of course, but we can go a little more recent as well. We have the COVID crash, we have the dot-com boom, and then the bust part. We have the 2008 big crisis where the S&P 500 dropped 56%. And I was trading live at that time already, and I had both strategies that were built to make money when the market goes up and down. And it was a very comfortable time as well. Recently, we've had COVID, of course, where the market dropped 33% in 7 days. And recently, 2022 as well, which was a very hard year as well.
Yeah, and I want to tell everybody, Alexei yesterday was showing me, it's your partner, a nuclear scientist who was, I like to call him your first big case study or testimonial, which I know he wasn't your first one, but Hopefully we'll hear him on the show as well.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah, and I know you guys are continuously improving the system and working together on it, but he was sharing how he was showing me, as somebody who does not know a lot about trading at all, it was very crystal clear to me that when we went back to, was it 30 years or 25 years? Just the difference between what the S&P 500 is doing and all those volatile markets.
Yeah.
And your system was able to just keep steady, making money
Exactly.
even through 2008 during COVID and over the past 24 months, which has been very unpredictable. Correct. So that's pretty impressive. I think if you haven't had a second, if this interests you, you got to go to tradingsystems.com and look at their demo presentation of how the software works, because we haven't talked about automating this
yet, though.
Because everyone's like, well, how do you do it in 30 minutes or less a day? And just make sure you check it out, because I think once I saw that, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And
you basically see that the index, the S&P 500, is dropping, and you would lose half of your money. But if you have strategies built out that can make money during that time, instead of having your account having a drop from $1 million to 500,000, you actually don't have that drop, so you can continue to accumulate wealth.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I know we talked about, Alexi, do you mind sharing, I want to talk about automation, I want to talk about the software. Well, before we get there, do you mind sharing a couple examples of people that have used the methodologies and had success out of it?
Sure, of course. One person applied to me for the mentoring. I think it was back in 2018. A guy called Brian, and he was a very busy professional, was traveling a lot, and he had been trading already, but only on the long side. And he experienced that 2008 disaster where half of his accounts was basically vanished. So he was looking for a way to have more consistent profits and not having to worry that much when the market goes down, and basically not need to worry at all what the market is doing, because you can be covered with that.
And you just mentioned something really important. I want you to finish this story, but that if he's traveling a lot,
exactly,
like the fear would be, I got to sit in front of my computer all day long, watching the market. So
exactly. That was one of his issues as well. That he said, okay, I cannot always during the day watch the markets. So for him, it was very important to have a style where he could have the opportunity to put in his orders after the market close and just before the market opens the next day. So you've got a time lapse there between 4 p.m. Eastern time until 9:30 a.m. the next day to put in your orders. And that, of course, is something that suited him, but a lot of other people as well that would like to have their freedom during the day, being glued to the screen, and then only decide between 4 p.m. and 9:30 a.m. the next day when they need to put in their orders, which is like 15 minutes of work, mate.
But your rules in your software tells him what orders to put in.
Yes.
So I think this is really critical. What we were discussing before we were on camera was how it's like a no-think system. And I know we'll get into a little bit of how you guys get people to that place. But I think that's really important to understand that once you have the software and the system set up, whether I'm a doctor who's already retired or I'm a lawyer and I have cases during the day, like I'm coming home checking what orders I should put in based on the market.
Exactly.
And then it's just a few mechanical movements. I'm not analyzing this and making decisions on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like borrowing your brain and your experience based on this and installing it into the software, and they just get
right.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, because I mean, imagine you're a doctor.
Yep.
And you've got patients, but at the same time, you're thinking about your investments. That's not a good combination. Then you probably wouldn't function perfectly as a doctor because you're thinking of your investments. But your investments wouldn't work very well either.
Yes.
Because you have your work as well. But if you then have a way that you have a systemized approach that is pre-programmed, which you can execute after you're done with your normal work, whether that is working, whether it is being on the golf course.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big one too, is that people want freedom and control and power and predictability.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily like I need another job. They just don't want that. I mean, if you work that hard to accumulate your wealth, why are you now accumulating a job to then be busy? It just doesn't.
10 hours a day and
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yes.
And you travel a ton. You're always on the go. So
absolutely,
that's pretty incredible. Okay, so we talked about Brian, we talked about Alexi. Now you're telling me about a fund manager or somebody who manages a lot of money who use your system.
That's correct. Yeah.
Share a little bit about that.
That's a gentleman called Jeremy. He's from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he manages about $200 billion.
$200 billion?
Million. Yeah.
Okay.
200 billion.
Yeah.
So he reached out to me right after the COVID crash. So in April 2020.
Yes.
He was a good manager already, but of course, what he was looking for at that time was a systematic approach where he could protect the money of his clients when the market would drop a lot. So I spoke to him about an hour. We decided to work together.
Yeah.
And we developed a combination of systems that would help him to make money when the market would go up, but when the markets would start to drop, the money would be protected basically because the system would go into cash.
Yeah, unbelievable. So I got a crazy question for you. What was his training and background?
Probably a registered investment advisor, I assume. And the interesting thing is what most of those people learn is a lot of technical and fundamental stuff and things about compliance. But there's one thing that they don't learn.
What's that?
How to make money in the markets.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. You know, I think this is a great opportunity to talk a little bit about why traditional advice is kind of broken, especially now, and why things just, like everyone likes to say, if you talk to a really well-meaning agent or broker, they're going to say the same thing. Well, if you go all the way back to 1920 and you look at the S&P 500, you're going to make X percent. So just do that. Do you mind giving everybody your perspective on why things are why traditional advice is broken? I mean, you've obviously broken the mold. So do you mind going off on that?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is the traditional advice many times is just a buy and hold approach. And when the market then goes down, the banks say, well, listen, you need to just stick with this. And eventually, because over the long term, it will all go back and you will have a profit with that. But psychologically, if you start with $1 million and the market drops 50%, how would you feel?
Awful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it is by definition already a flawed approach, because what happens is if they are down 50%, most people say, I can't handle this psychologically anymore.
Right.
I still have half of it left. I better sell it all because at least I've got something. And then most of the times bail out at the worst possible time.
Yeah. I mean, I could admit this is embarrassing to admit on camera, but I owned a lot of Tesla early on. And I remember it going down by 20%. And I was like, I can't handle this. I got to sell it. And if I would have held on, it's 20x'd since that period of time.
If you would have.
Yes, if I would have. Right. Yeah, exactly right.
There was always the concept, okay, if you invest 60% of your money in equity and 40% in bonds, then you're kind of covered in that, because when the market goes down, bonds go up. That has been true since beginning of the 80s, when the big inflation era ended.
Yeah.
So it was basically a 40-year bull market of the bond markets. But now we've seen 2022, where the stocks dropped between 30 and 40%, but bonds also dropped.
Yeah.
So that whole classical approach that has worked for a while, if it works too long, then eventually the markets will teach you a lesson with that. And all those classical financial advisors that have that kind of approach, for them it's very difficult right now to come up with something else, basically, because that's all what they are used to.
Right. And your system would it help people like, I mean, and I think this is a big important thing to understand is that you're not claiming like invest in this technology and all of a sudden you're making gajillions of dollars.
No,
it's actually, it's a system that protects your downside because there's gonna be opportunities to lose money. But when people who follow the rule sets using your software and go through your mentoring, while the rest of us who are in the S&P 500 might lose 50% of our money, yours immediately have rules to exit all those positions to lose 15-20%.
exactly. And just do the simple math with that.
Okay.
If you lose 50% of your money, so from $1 million, you're down to 500,000.
Yeah.
You need to make 100% to get back to break even.
Yes.
Now,
It's really hard to do.
exactly. Also, from a psychological standpoint of view, that my goodness, I need to make 100%.
Yeah.
So if you're able to limit that drop in your account and limit that to, let's say, 20% instead of 50%,
You're way ahead.
you only need to make 25%
Yeah.
to get back to break even again.
Yeah.
And that is from a emotional and psychological standpoint of view, it's incredibly comfortable.
pretty amazing. So I can see why doctors or busy professionals especially are very drawn to this, especially as they're planning on retiring. I mean, for example, I worked with dentists for many, many years, and one of their exit strategies is to sell to a big private equity business that owns multiple dental practices. And what they find a lot is they just traded their one job for another job.
Exactly.
And it's not necessarily producing more wealth. And so your trading system really gives them, okay, this is something I could do 15 to 30 minutes a day, gives me an ability to have control over how my money's invested, following historical data, there were proven rule sets. It's pretty incredible. So would you mind sharing us a little bit about how do we get, if like I can think of a dozen friends of mine who are going to be retiring in the next 5 to 7 years. How do we get them up and equipped to be able to start investing in the stock market without it being overwhelming, confusing, and kind of a guaranteed fail if they started on their own? But you guys make it almost fail-proof through your mentoring program. Do you mind sharing how that would work or what the first steps would be?
So do you mean regarding...
Like your training, how would I get trained to get up to the level where I can start
got
doing
it.
30 minutes?
Yeah, so what I do, I have a mentoring program, and it's a 4-month program,
Yeah.
which is split up in a few different parts. We do start with the psychological part and the mental part, where we need to take a look at what the personality of the student is, what is his or her risk tolerance, what are their objectives, what kind of person are they? If they're very patient persons, they would like certain strategies. If they're very fast-paced, they might like other kind of strategies. So every person is a little bit different.
Which I think is actually really important that you guys do that, because now it's building them, because people aren't going to succeed if it doesn't fit their personality.
Exactly.
Because they're going to start it, because anybody will do anything for a few minutes if it's what makes it get them a call. But if it's not designed, keep going on that.
So it's not like that you buy a system and then follow the system. It actually needs to be your brainchild, because when it's your brainchild, it means you have created it yourself. So what I try to do is basically to teach people how to fish. So that they can have their own systems. So the next part of the program is by far the largest part, and that is the development part. And that's where, based on their psychological profile, we're going to develop different kind of systems that are designed for different kind of market types. So a system that is designed to make money when the market goes up. another system that is designed when the market goes down. And trust me, in 2022, when you have those systems, it was very comfortable, of course.
So in other words, you hedged your bets. You didn't lose money while other people were losing a lot of money. Or explain that losing money part, because you actually did say yesterday how there's going to be times you're losing money, but the way your system works is it protects you on that. You already said that. Let me just back up one step on that. I didn't want me to cut you off. So when you say systems, okay, can we talk a little bit about systems in the sense of like, what is a system? Because if I didn't see your demo, which by the way, you have to go to tradingsystems.com, check out the demo. It'll bring life to this conversation. If I heard system, I'd be like, okay, I'm building stuff, or really you're teaching them to build rule sets based on their personality, which is the system, correct?
Yeah, so a system basically is where you have specific rules, when to enter and when to exit. Yeah. And those are backed up, of course, by historical data over the last 20 years that you know what that system is supposed to do. So instead of predicting what is going on, you actually have a system that says, this is where I need to enter on that stock.
Yeah.
And that's the price where I will exit.
Wow. Okay.
And that is all then built in the software, basically.
Yeah.
And the software spits out on a daily basis the orders that you need to place into your broker platform.
Wow. So just to clarify, so your software has the rule sets or the systems already built into it. Now, if I was a student, I would just be working with you or Alexi on creating my own rules and systems based on my personality, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And that would be with our assistants, because the student in the beginning, of course, is new. So we teach them basically what kind of indicators and rules they need to use for their buying decisions.
Yeah, I love that.
And when to sell, what kind of rule do they need to have? But also, what kind of money management?
Yeah.
Because that is incredibly important as well, so that people can trade within their risk tolerance.
Yeah.
The whole idea is that they've got as I call it, a suite of system. So which is basically a combination of different systems.
Combination of different systems and strategies.
Exactly, yeah. Which then they just on a daily basis trade simultaneously. And that lowers your stress level in such a way because you know you have developed different systems for different market environments.
Yeah.
I don't care if the market goes up or down. I don't care at all. And I think that is a very
That's pretty powerful. It's a pretty powerful place to live.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like you're taking something that could be super complicated and stressful and emotional and making it super simple, automated, and stress-free.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So what would you say are a few, like when people are looking to get into your mentoring program, what would you say are a couple of the things that either are holding them back from jumping in, right? I think I've addressed a few of them of just like, you know, what's actually like, I don't need another job, right? We already kind of talked about that and how this actually alleviates and gives you time, doesn't take away from it. But what are some of the other questions people have for you that is really important, or beliefs that might be holding them back that's really important to help them get over, or misconceptions to have them removed to jump into the mentoring program?
I think one of the main things is that many people just don't know that there are a huge amount of opportunities in the market, regardless what the market does.
Yeah.
So right now we're having the fear of, will we getting a lot of inflation, for example? There are strategies that we can build that capitalize on the fact that
high
inflation will come. For example, you can have commodities that you could trade and capitalize when the gold price is going up. So it's there's a lot of different things that you can do, and regardless of what is going on in the markets, it's not the fact that there isn't a good or a bad time. There's always opportunity.
Yeah.
There's always something that is moving.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the main things.
Yeah. It's always a good time. I think it's a great reframe.
Yeah.
Number two is my concern would be that if I'm watching this is that it sounds like I'm too busy to now learn a whole new skill sets. Can you address that for a moment? I know we've kind of hit that a couple times, but I think now it's like I want people to have an opportunity to learn from you. So I just want to really stress this one point.
So you need to do the work at the beginning to develop your systems.
Yeah.
But once you're done with that, the process that you need to do on a daily basis is basically download your historical data. Then your software generates the orders. So you get a file that says you need to buy Tesla or something else.
Yeah.
That is what you put in the broker platform, and you're done for the day. And that part you can do whenever you want to, when the market is closed. You just put in the orders in your broker platform.
Yeah.
And even that part that can be automated as well.
Wow.
So then basically everything goes on autopilot, and that's what I have, of course, because I trade 50 different strategies.
Oh, wow.
And I travel a lot, so for me it makes it even more comfortable. And then your workload is getting back to 5 minutes a day, basically.
Yeah. Wow. Now, how hands-on are you and Alexi with a new student who joins your 4-month program?
So the student needs to be willing to invest time to learn things. They need to have some affinity, of course, with numbers, interest in the stock market, likes to work with computers and being comfortable putting in orders in a broker platform. But you do not need to be a math genius at all. I don't have a math degree or anything like that. But you need to have that interest to make it work.
Would you do like the technical calls on how to actually use your software, and then you teach a lot of the strategy from what I understand?
So it's we do split it up because Alexei, my partner, he is a lot more skilled than I am on the technical part, of course, and he developed the software as well. So he teaches that part. I do more the strategical part, basically, the psychological part as well. So it's a really great combo as well. And that's what many people very much like as well, because they get from two different sides a complete different feedback that is very much in synergy, actually.
Yeah. Why did you start teaching?
I love teaching. I used to be a ski instructor and a whitewater rafting instructor.
Oh, is that right?
Young.
I didn't know that.
And so I was 19 years old when I started as a ski instructor. And after that, I moved over being a whitewater rafting instructor and worked in 7 different countries, leading groups of more than 200 people.
Oh, my God.
And I think the teaching part is incredibly nice and gratifying when people, you see them improve actually from having no skill at all, not being able to ski and falling down, and after a couple of days, they go down the slope.
Yeah.
For trading, it is incredibly nice as well. But the other thing as well is we have a lot of very smart students. So it keeps me very sharp as well. Because one thing is that you know things yourself. The other thing is when you have to teach it to somebody else.
You
have to dig in a lot deeper. So it has helped my own trading as well. And it is, I think the other thing is, trading is kind of a lonely profession. I mean, you know already what I said, that I don't have that much to do during the day because everything is automated.
Yeah.
So if you then can discuss things with a group of like-minded people, that is incredibly powerful and a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I would say the one thing for people that are out there, there's nothing more powerful than being with a group of people that are going to challenge you, stimulate your brain.
Yep.
And I think, the research is just out there that people live longer, they're happier, they have something to look forward to, they have something to talk about versus like news, politics, and everything that's negative in the world. It gives them something focused and exciting. So that's pretty amazing. Okay, a couple more quick questions, and then I think we're going to be done for our time together. Even though we could talk more, I love this stuff. Who would you say, like, what are the qualities of someone that should reach out? Go to tradingsystems.com, look at the demo. I know you and Alexi have a small free workshop that they could talk to you guys directly, learn from you more about what's in the book. By the way, I highly recommend check out the book, like buy it today. 30-Minute Stock Trader on Amazon. It's $9, I think. What do we say?
$9.99.
$9.99. You're gonna learn a whole new system. It's pretty amazing. But what are the qualities of the students that you're seeing are being successful with it, just from a personality perspective? And then how much liquid assets should they have available to get started with the program?
So from a personality aspect, I already mentioned they need to have a sincere interest in trading.
Yep.
And to make things work and being comfortable with computers. But nothing needs to be overwhelming. I've had students that did not know anything about it, but if they have the desire to learn things, that's the key thing. As far as liquid assets, we don't have a specific requirement, but generally speaking, most students have more than $1 million in liquid assets to trade. That doesn't mean that they need to start with $1 million, because I think it's important once you have done the whole course, you need to start trading then live. So you could start maybe with 200,000 or 300,000 or so.
Okay.
If you have less than that, then probably it's good to just read my book and see if you could do it in another way. But that's generally what we look for, and that it makes sense for them as well.
Yeah. Well, what I found too, just working with a lot of high net worth professionals, is they may want your mentoring, invest a little in the beginning and then build up as they build belief in the system.
Exactly.
Like that's an okay route to go, because, going from $0 to $1 million investing, it could be a little, I would imagine, a little concerning for people. So
it's also a psychological thing.
Yeah.
You suddenly see you've got, on a daily basis, you see your account going up and down, and you will have times where it goes down. It's not like every day it's going up. I need to be very clear about that as well. But I think it's always good to test the waters first to make sure that you're comfortable. So let's say you start with $1 million. You've got a liquid asset of $1 million. You start with $250,000 and slowly just build it up once you start to feel more comfortable with it.
After someone's gone through all your mentoring and training, can they do this on their own? Or do they need to be like umbilical cord stuck to you? Like, that's probably a question people have.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. And now they can be completely on their own, because they get a software, the same software that me and Alexei are using, actually, is what they are going to use as well. And they get a license for that for life.
Yeah, that's a license for life, which is really important. I think that's great to know. I think you guys are really generous by doing that, by the way, so that you can, the goal, which I love about talking to both of you, is the goal is to, as you said earlier, teach them how to fish rather than just catch a fish for
exactly.
Like this,
Yeah. So when they have that software, and basically after the program, they have the skill to work with the software, but also the skill to develop new systems. Let's say that their personal situation 3 years after the mentoring changes, and they want to have a specific system for their kids, maybe in a trust fund. They can build that themselves as well then, because they do have that knowledge as well. So from the 4 months after that, they can continue to apply it themselves because they have the skill.
Yeah, and I could also see when I work with my dental clients for many years, they're always looking for things to do, like with their adult sibling or their adult child, like we're doing with one of my daughters, teaching her parts of our business, is that I remember working with a lot of my clients. They're like, well, I have, and my daughter's now 33, has 2 kids, has 6 hours in the day. This is something they can do together as well, and they can fund it and do that together. So, okay, so last thing, I mean, this is great. So it works in up and down markets. It's a systematic approach to help with bull markets, bear markets, sideways markets. independent of what the government does, because I know that's a big concern right now.
And one other thing,
Yeah.
you don't need to look at the news.
Oh, that's great.
So you don't need to worry if there's coming a Fed decision
Yep.
or something like that. The news is something that is completely relevant. It doesn't matter what.
Irrelevant. Yeah.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yes.
And then the other thing I think is really important is that there is definitely work in the beginning of learning in the mentoring program.
Yes.
Which, frankly, learning is fun.
There's no free lunch that that you say, okay, I invest in a program and tomorrow you're there. I mean, you need to put work in there to get there, of course. But if you can average, let's say, 2 hours per day on average, and maybe during the week, if you don't have that time, you can make up for it in the weekend.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Yeah, that's kind of the, I like to say it's the tsunami. Like, no one can see what you're building underneath the water.
Exactly.
It's the earthquake happens hundreds of miles at sea, but then it builds, and then all of a sudden it crashes in a powerful way. But then it's less than 30 minutes a day from that point, but the work's had to be put in first. And sets a great direction for retirement or doing something great during retirement.
Exactly.
That you can control rather than relying on outside professionals that are operating on older belief systems or outdated
Which
methods.
don't work.
Yeah. I know I've shared what I recommend is the first step, but how would someone get started with seeing if this is a good fit for themselves?
So the best thing what they can do is that the link below the video, they just click that link and there will be a questionnaire that they can fill out.
And I'll just let everyone, so if they listen to this on Audible or on Spotify, go to tradingsystems.com.
Exactly. Yeah. So go to tradingsystem.com and there will be a link in there below the video from us. They need to fill out an application with some diagnostic questions. So I've got an idea what their objectives are, what their personality is, if they would be a good fit. And then the next thing is we plan a call.
Yeah.
We talk for 45 minutes in which we kind of decide together, would this be a good fit for working together? And once we say, yes, this could work, then we could start immediately. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, based on everything I've heard from you say, like, the one thing that is definitely buy the book today. It'll be at your door in a couple days. You can read it.
Or the Kindle version.
Or the Kindle version immediately. Go to the website, tradingsystems.com. And what you can do there is then register for one of the free classes. Watch the demo. I think the challenge of just doing the interview is that the demo actually will show people how simple it is and how these systems can be automated and how it's not technical and complicated. Let Alexi and Laurens do that work. You just get to learn and then build out what works for you as well. We'll wrap us up here, buddy.
Yeah, one more thing. There is in the book, there is a link to a free video course as well, where you get a couple of hours of free teaching as well about those systems and which one works in up markets and which ones work in down markets. And I think that is a really good help as well.
Yeah.
Some people, they like to learn more visually, and others like to read, but that is a very good start, I think.
I think that's great. It's great. And can we get that over at tradingsystems.com as well, possibly?
Of course, absolutely. No problem at all.
Okay, that's great. Well, it's been fantastic having you on the show.
Likewise.
I love what you're up to. I always feel like I always feel like I'm learning so much when I'm around you, and you're such a positive person. If you're interested in learning from Laurens, I really recommend just grabbing his book. Go to tradingsystems.com. Leave a comment if you watch this on YouTube or wherever you listen. Let me know if you want more from Laurens. I'll bring him out, and if you have questions, we could do more videos like this. But that's it. Have an amazing day. Thanks so much for watching this, and we'll talk to you soon.